From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Tonight on Y News. Grab Philippines insists its 2 peso per minute fare charge is legal following the 10 million peso fine imposed by the LTFRB. House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez believes postponing the 2019 midterm polls will help them focus on tackling the proposed constitutional amendment and shift to federal form of government. And tensions flare as the Bicameral Conference Committee deliberates provisions on the Bangsamoro region territories and mode of plebiscite. Good evening. Ride-hailing company Grab Philippines maintains that its 2 peso per minute fare charge is legal after it was fined 10 million pesos by the LTFRB. Joanano tells us why.
Grab Philippines is now studying all legal options after the Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board ordered the company to pay 10 million pesos in fines over its 2 peso per minute fare charge. In a statement, Grab PH head Brian Koo insists their fare charge is legal, citing Department of Transportation Order 2015-11 allowing transport network companies to change fares on their own. Yesterday, the LTFRB imposed a fine on Grab for charging 2 peso per minute fare charge on top of its government-approved fares.
To the mind of the board, yung ginawa nilang pag-impose ng 2 peso per minute charge was without authority from the board.
LTFRB reiterates that under the DO 2017-11, TNCs are allowed to have pre-arranged fare authorized by the board. The board also ordered Grab to reimburse its riders by way of rebates on their future rides that can be availed of within 20 days. Chairman Dalgras says the order will take effective in the next 15 days if Grab fails to file an appeal.
Hindi po siya nakalagay na immediately executory. So there's a 15-day period after which it will become final pag walang gagawin yung Grab, whether to appeal or to file a motion for reconsideration.
It can be recalled that PBA Party List Representative Jericho Nograles questioned the 2 peso per minute travel time charged by Grab and asked the ride-hailing company for a 1.8 billion peso refund to the passengers. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The issue on no election scenario surfaces anew after the Consultative Committee tasked to review the 1987 Constitution submits a copy of its proposed federal charter to the House leaders. Grace Casin tells us why.
House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez believes that postponing the 2019 midterm elections will help the lawmakers to focus more on tackling the proposed constitutional amendment. Alvarez says the lower house is facing a tight schedule in the coming weeks because they will have to deliberate on the 2019 proposed national budget along with the proposed shift to federal government. He also notes that congressmen will be busy campaigning for the upcoming polls once they file their certificates of candidacy in October.
Paano tayo magkakurong dito? Ano mangyayari? Siyempre magkakampanya na yung mga congressmen. E-election yan eh.
Dapat ba hindi na mag-election muna?
Kung gugustuhin talaga na matapos natin ito. Kasi kailangan mo ng focus dyan eh.
But Senator Francis Pangilinan disagrees with Speaker Alvarez, insisting that the people's right to suffrage should not be compromised. Meanwhile, Alvarez stresses that they will continue working on the proposed federalism even without the Senate. This is because the higher chamber's version of the bill is still pending on the committee level.
Wala namang sinasabing magkukonvene kami into a constituent assembly. 3/4 votes of all its members. Yun ang nakalagay. Congress may propose. Propose ha? Hindi ito yung parang batas na inaaprubahan mo. Proposal lang ito to the people. For the people to agree.
Earlier today, the members of the Consultative Committee tasked by President Rodrigo Duterte to review the 1987 Constitution submitted a copy of their proposed federal charter to the House leaders. However, Solons are yet to tackle the content of the proposal. House Majority Floor Leader Rudy Fariñas also clarifies that only Congress has the power to propose amendments in the Constitution.
Kasi alam naman nila na yung kanila is just recommendatory. They're only advisory, and I hope that we could make that very clear to the public.
Grace Cassin, UNTV, News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
A federalism advocate voices apprehension on some of the provisions of the draft federal charter. He also believes this proposal does not entirely mirror the type of federal government being pushed by the president's political party. Here's why from Victor Cosare.
Correct Movement principal and co-founder Orion Perez Dumdum questions some of the provisions of the federal charter proposed by the consultative committee tasked by President Rodrigo Duterte to review the 1987 Constitution. In the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, Dumdum explains the draft does not entirely reflect the type of federal government being pushed by the PDP Laban, which is the political party of the president. He says the draft espouses the federal presidential and not the hybrid or parliamentary form of government as discussed in the party's book, which includes Dumdum as one of its authors. The federal advocate also notes that some CONCOM members pushed for the hybrid form but majority favored the federal presidential type.
Yung sinasabi kong Magnificent Seven, sila yung panukala nila is mag-parliamentary or mag-hybrid. Pero hindi sila pinakinggan.
He claims that corruption prevails in some countries that are practicing presidential form of government while those implementing a federal parliament form are more progressive.
So yung mga presidential systems usually yung nagiging brand of politics is puro personality-based politics, puro mga showbiz style, yung mga ganon, pasikatan, name recall, whereas pag parliament, ang parliamentary system, more party-based, more platform-based, more issue-centric. So, mas stable yung system of government nila.
He also points out several provisions in the draft federal charter that might hamper the country's economy, such as the retention of limitations on the foreign ownership. Dumdum believes that opening the country to more foreign investors will generate more jobs for the Filipinos.
Kasi ang iba't ibang mga bansa sa ASEAN, bukas sila sa pagpasok ng investors. Tayo lang ang may ganyan sa Constitution, kaya hindi tayo nakakapag-partake doon sa integration na sinasabi.
Dumdum also opposes CONCOM's proposal to require a college degree for those running for higher positions, as well as the anti-dynasty provision limiting the number of political family members allowed to seek government posts.
Operationally, the way a parliamentary system works, the only people who can reach the top-level positions are those who prove themselves through competence and ability.
Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Bicameral Conference Committee will meet with President Rodrigo Duterte following a possible deadlock in the passage of the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law. Nel Maribohok tells us why.
The Bicameral Conference Committee encounters a possible deadlock in the third day of its deliberations on the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law. As the panel tackles the remaining crucial provisions, the conferees are yet to find a level field to agree on the Bangsamoro region territories and the mode of plebiscite provisions. Versions of the Senate and the House agree on letting areas to vote on whether or not they wish to be included in the Bangsamoro region. These include 6 municipalities in Lanao del Norte and 39 villages in North Cotabato. However, they disagreed on the manner of the referendum, with House version necessitating a majority vote for the inclusion, while Senate says villages will automatically be covered by Bangsamoro region with the municipalities' sole yes vote. But Lanao del Norte Representative Khalid Dimaporo is determined to fight against it for his constituents.
I don't know why Mig said na if we don't get what we want, uuwi kami in tears. Hindi yan totoo. We're all adults here. I don't get what I want and I feel that this is unconstitutional, I'll challenge it in the Supreme Court, period.
House Majority Leader Rudy Fariñas meanwhile sees the need to pursue constitutional amendments to solve such issues.
Ang concern nga ng iba naman, yung anim gusto pumunta doon. So, hindi papayagan, hindi gulo. Kaya doon, para maareglo mo yun, yung mga bagay na yun, constitutional amendment na ang kailangan.
And because of this possible deadlock in the passage of the measure, the BICAM has decided to meet with President Rodrigo Duterte to settle the matter.
It will involve some political decisions, and the President, being the highest political officer, would have to decide if there is a deadlock.
Some groups, meanwhile, continue to protest the controversial bill and calls on the BICAM to approve the original version drafted by the Bangsamoro Transition Commission. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, the Bicameral Conference Committee agrees to adopt the House version of the Bangsamoro Basic Law on the Bangsamoro Region territory after meeting with President Rodrigo Duterte in Malacanang this afternoon. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque says the provision states that the 6 municipalities of Lanao del Norte and 39 barangays of North Cotabato could vote to join the BBL territory in a referendum to be conducted on the mother territory of the areas involved. He adds that President Duterte cited constitutional provisions and a Supreme Court decision on Umali's case on his intervention. Malacanang is confident that the BBL will be enacted into law before the President's SONA on July 23. In other news, President Rodrigo Duterte names DIWA Party List Representative Emeline Aglipay Villar as Department of Justice Undersecretary along with lawyers Adrian Sugay and Mark Perete. Villar, also a lawyer, is the wife of Public Works and Highways Secretary Mark Villar. With Villar's appointment to the DOJ, the DIWA party will have to nominate to the Commission on Elections another member to fill her seat in the House of Representatives where she was on her second term. The President also appoints lawyer Neil Vincent Bainto as Justice Assistant Secretary. They will replace former Undersecretaries Raymond Mecate, Erickson Balmes, Reynante Arceo, and Assistant Secretary Juvie Manwong, who were earlier ordered by the DOJ Secretary to submit courtesy resignations as they are coterminous with their predecessor Vitaliano Aguirre II. The Department of Labor and Employment issues a clarificatory order following the retrenchment of PLDT workers amid its crackdown on contractualization. DOLE also advises the laid-off workers to apply under DOLE's Emergency Employment Program. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III meets with the leaders of contractual workers who were retrenched rather than regularized following the issuance of the Executive Order on Regularization by the Department of Labor and Employment. Contractual workers who were laid off from PLDT, who belong to PLDT Organization of Workers and Employees for Rights, are present in the meeting, together with labor advocates from Defend Job Philippines and Kilos na Manggagawa. Bello reiterated to them the content of DEO, which ordered concerned companies to regularize all contractual employees, as directed by President Rodrigo Duterte, in line with the government's resolve to end contractualization in the country.
Our decision is that all the 7,000 plus are already employees of PLDT. So yun ang tinaklarify namin sa kanila.
In a clarificatory order issued by DOLE to PLDT signed by the Labor Secretary, the department said that pursuant to existing laws, the regularization of workers as a result of the finding of labor-only contracting takes effect by operation of law and is not subject to any condition. DOLE further warned that any act or condition imposed that frustrates or tend to frustrate the order to regularize is contumacious and shall be dealt with in accordance with law.
So as part of due process, if they may file some pleadings, we will just act as consider any pleading as irrelevant already.
During the meeting, DOLE also informs the workers the compensation that they still have to receive from their previous employers, such as unpaid wages and other benefits.
Meron na po kaming order sa cashier namin na i-release yun. Kasi nahimay na ho yung listahan and how much. I think the cash band was about 52 million.
Maganda yung nangyari dun sa mga listed na magpapasa ng manifestation na dapat isama rin sila dun sa listed na maganda naman yung naging sagot ng DOLE. Maghintay muna kami for the meantime na i-implement ni PLDT.
In the meantime, Bello advises the retrenched workers to apply under DOLE's Emergency Employment Program while further clarifications are being addressed. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The LTFRB is set to begin distributing the fuel vouchers tomorrow to the first 10,000 public utility jeepney drivers in Metro Manila. The agency also warns the recipients against using the vouchers in unauthorized transactions. John Nano tells us why.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board will begin on July 12 the distribution of fuel vouchers to jeepney operators in line with the implementation of the government's fuel subsidy or the Pantawid Pasada program. The joint memorandum circular on fuel vouchers was signed on Wednesday by representatives from the Department of Transportation, Department of Finance, Department of Budget and Management, Department of Energy, the LTFRB, and the Land Bank of the Philippines. Under the program, a legitimate jeepney driver or operator will receive 833 pesos monthly subsidy from the government in the form of fuel vouchers. The LTFRB says the distribution of the fuel vouchers to public utility jeepneys is covered by the imposition of the tax reform law. The agency says only legitimate PUJ operators with franchise may avail of fuel vouchers at the LTFRB booth inside the compound of the Land Transportation Office in East Avenue, Quezon City. Land Bank personnel will also be present during the distribution of the fuel voucher cards. The LTFRB will post a list of qualified operators on its website, and only those listed may avail of the fuel voucher cards. Around 10,000 PUJ drivers in Metro Manila will be prioritized in the first tranche of the distribution, while those in the regions will be able to receive their fuel voucher cards next week.
Tuloy-tuloy po ito, no? Tomorrow magsisimula, and then we have discussed it with Land Bank na hanggang Friday, Saturday hanggang maubos. Pagkatapos nun po, we will now be launching it all across the country in the next few weeks. No? Kailangan pa natin mailatag sa iba't ibang mga region, proportionately distributed.
Some jeepney drivers are grateful for the subsidy, but the group Pasang Mazda says this would have been more helpful if the government allotted the fund to purchase modern jeepneys.
Malaking bagay na po yan, baon ng mga bata. Kung halimbawa, kapos kami sa pangkrudo, pwede namin kuhain doon.
Kung ilalagay pa rin sa modernization program yan, 600 units na bagong modern jeep ang mabibili na 1 bilyon. Hindi ko sinasabing masasayang. Paikinabangan, pero pangsamantala. Ang kailangan natin ay pangsamangtagal.
The LTFRB and the Land Bank of the Philippines warned that the privilege may be revoked once drivers and operators use the vouchers in unauthorized transactions such as in purchasing grocery or other items. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
World-class composers gather in Manila as they prepare to create BANAUE-inspired music. Charlie Barrero tells us why.
Musicians from different countries meet at the Manila Peninsula to support and be a part of the BANAUE International Musical Composition Competition, spearheaded by the Universal Harvester Incorporated. The contestants compose musical pieces to help in the rehabilitation of the deteriorating BANAUE rice terraces. It can be noted that the competition called for BANAUE-inspired symphonic compositions and received an overwhelming response from composers all over the world, generating 84 entries. Following auditions and deliberations, 20 composers were chosen to go on an immersion program in BANAUE. The top 10 finalists will be chosen at the semi-finals, which will be held at the BANAUE Hotel. The chosen pieces will then be performed by an orchestra at the Grand Finals night at the Tanghalan Nicanor Abelardo at the Cultural Center of the Philippines on July 25, 2018. The grand winner will receive $12,000 and the two runner-ups will each receive $6,000. The composers hope that through their music, they can send a strong message to the world about the plight of the BANAUE rice terraces and to draw attention to help restore the heritage site. They say their pieces signify how different cultures can relate to and work on a common goal of preserving an international treasure and its surrounding rich heritage.
It just feels very unreal to be a part of this competition. It's an amazing opportunity.
I want to emphasize my work to help to save this beautiful place, to save this beautiful nature.
According to local officials, if this tourist site is further left unattended, the situation will get worse. The soil erosion and degradation, land abandonment, and lack of interest in farming are just some of the many issues that affect the BANAUE rice terraces. And due to this, it even places the BANAUE rice terraces at a risk of being removed from the UNESCO World Heritage Site. President and CEO of Universal Harvester Incorporated, Dr. Milagros Thio, further explains that this project will hopefully push not just the rehabilitation of BANAUE rice terraces, but also the advancement of Philippine agriculture and to recognize farmers as the country's heroes. She adds that helping out Filipino farmers and the agriculture sector has been her longtime advocacy.
I want to bring awareness among the Filipino people about the plight of the BANAUE rice terraces, which needs a lot of restoration and rehabilitation to maintain its World Heritage image.
Charlie Barredo, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Up next on Y News. The third UNTV Rescue Summit showcases rescue and life-saving skills training for the public. And young diva Morissette shares excitement for her maid concert in Cebu and Dubai. Thank you for keeping me company in the first part of Y News. More reasons behind the stories with Angelo Castro III and William Thio after this quick break. I'm Rheena, Villamor-Camara. Good evening.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up from where Rheena Villamor-Camara left off. I'm Angelo Castro III, and here are the headlines. Police nab suspect in the killing of General Thio Mayor Ferdinand Bote in Camarines Sur. Vice President Leni Robredo asks the Presidential Electoral Tribunal to give COMELEC just 5 days to comment on vote shading threshold. And the Philippine National Police is set to deploy 6,000 cops to man President Rodrigo Duterte's third SONA. Good evening. The camp of Vice President Leni Robredo asks the Presidential Electoral Tribunal to give the Commission on Elections just 5 days to comment on the ballot shading threshold for the electoral protest filed against her by former Senator Bongbong Marcos. May Bermudez tells us why.
The lawyers of Vice President Leni Robredo filed another motion urging the Presidential Electoral Tribunal to give the Commission on Elections only 5 days to submit its comment on the ballot shading threshold issue amid the continuing vice presidential race vote recount. Robredo's camp explains this is to avoid any further delays in the resolution of its motion for reconsideration before the PET on the matter. They believed that the COMELEC's confirmation of the minimum percentage of shading to be considered as a valid vote can help the PET to decide on the case. The Vice President initially appealed to PET to use a 25% ballot shading threshold, arguing this was set by the COMELEC in the 2016 polls. This was despite the move of Solicitor General Jose Calida to favor former Senator Bongbong Marcos' stand to use 50% threshold as a standard in the electoral case. The COMELEC so far has yet to issue a statement on the issue. Robredo's camp also asks the Supreme Court to show the CCTV footage to prove that Marcos's camp delivered snacks at the 4th floor of the Presidential Electoral Tribunal office for the swimming party. Attorney Emil Marañon, legal consultant of Robredo's team, maintains there is nothing wrong in the activity. They also insist it was Revisor Osmundo Abuyuan's personal decision to attend the outing and that they could have stopped him if they have known about it beforehand.
I think last week they have already meted some penalty doon sa mga taong involved doon sa outing. And what we see here is that a very clear case of a PR stunt kasi inuunahan lang ni Bongbong Marcos yung investigation.
PET head revisors have the duty to identify valid, invalid, or stray votes and has access in vote counting machines and ballot boxes in the VP race vote recount. Marcos's legal counsel, attorney Vic Rodriguez, meanwhile, urges Robredo to show the video and prove their allegations.
Malinaw na paglabag po ito sa ethical standards at malinaw po ito sapagkat bago po sila manungkulan bilang head revisor, sila po ay nanumpa sa kanilang katungkulan and they owe fidelity and allegiance to the tribunal.
If you want na mag-appear na there's no malice or walang influence sa part actually ni Bongbong Marcos. He should not have done that. He should have been careful.
The recount in VP votes is still ongoing in Camarines Sur and Iloilo. Last Monday, Marcos's camp asked the PET to probe Robredo's head revisor for allegedly violating the standard in the ongoing case. Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Consultative Committee now wants all living former presidents to be part of the Transition Commission under the federal form of government. The CONCOM met today after President Rodrigo Duterte rejected the transitory provisions of the draft federal constitution submitted to him yesterday. Under the draft charter, the president will serve as the chairman of the Federal Transition Commission and will lead a 10-member team, which he will also appoint to exercise all powers necessary to ensure a speedy and successful transition. But after today's meeting, the CONCOM decided that the current chief executive be stripped of said powers and proposed that the 4 ex-presidents be included in that transition government. This means former Presidents Fidel Ramos, Joseph Estrada, Gloria Arroyo, and Benigno Aquino III will now be part of the 17-member committee, which will start performing their functions after the new proposed charter is ratified in the plebiscite.
Transitory commission. We also made as ex officio members the transitory vice president, the Senate president, the Speaker of the House, and all the living presidents.
President Rodrigo Duterte says he only apologizes to God and nobody else following his meeting with the church leader last night. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte met with Brother Eddie Villanueva in Malacanang on Tuesday. The two talked about the chief executive's recent pronouncements against the teachings of a certain religious group in the past few days. Among those that the president is referring to is Australian missionary Patricia Fox, whom he wants to expel because of her alleged engagement in partisan political activities.
As a religious, she was agitating also everybody there, the strikers, and it was a volatile situation. Alam mo yung mga strike. And I said, my God, it's good. It does not thrive on lies, and they never egg people to go to court. We are just a foreigner with the privilege. You better go home.
The president also reiterated that religion and God should not be used to attack the government because of the separation of the church and the state.
You can criticize us anything at all, from the garbage collector to the generals and all, and even to the vice president and senator, in and out of the list. But never use the name of God as a front to attack government.
In the end, the president said he only apologizes to God and nobody else.
If I wrong God, then he would be happy to listen to my apology. Why? Because my God is all forgiving. Why? Because he does not remember past hurt. Why? Because God created you to be good and not to be bad.
Meanwhile, Senator Panfilo Lacson takes this as a positive development, saying the president's supporters can now finally get over with the dilemma of whether or not to continue supporting his leadership. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Consultative Committee now wants all living former presidents to be part of the Transition Commission under the federal form of government. The CONCOM met today after President Rodrigo Duterte rejected the transitory provisions of the draft federal constitution submitted to him yesterday. Under the draft charter, the president will serve as the chairman of the Federal Transition Commission and will lead the 10-member team, which he will also appoint to exercise all powers necessary to ensure a speedy and successful transition. But after today's meeting, the CONCOM decided that the current chief executive be stripped of the said powers and proposed that the 4 ex-presidents be included in that transition government. This means former Presidents Fidel Ramos, Joseph Estrada, Gloria Arroyo, and Benigno Aquino III will now be part of the 17-member committee, which will start performing their functions after the new proposed charter is ratified in the plebiscite. The Philippine National Police is considering 2 options to address the bulk of protesters on the day of President Rodrigo Duterte's third State of the Nation address. The PNP will also prohibit its personnel from bringing their respective service firearms. Here's why from Lea Ilagan.
A total of 6,000 policemen from the National Capital Region will be deployed to ensure security and order on the course of President Rodrigo Duterte's third State of the Nation address on July 23, according to NCR Police Office Police Chief Superintendent Guillermo Eleazar. They are considering 2 options to address the bulk of protesters on the day of SONA. They are specifically contemplating on whether or not to set the protest line in Evergodesco Mall in Commonwealth Avenue or in Batasan Road. This is in view of the possible repeat of last year's event when President Duterte went out of Batasan Complex to personally address the protesters. Eleazar adds that all CAPs will not be allowed to bring their respective service firearms.
Tolerance. Wala kaming baril na dadalhin sa mga CDM. But of course, yung mga security forces natin, meron yun pero malayo sila. Hindi sila hahalo o hindi sila malapit dito sa mga magdarally.
The PNP will not set up container vans and barbed wires to block the protesters, but there will be 13 sub-security task groups to be led by the Quezon City Police District who will monitor the surroundings up to the Batasan area. Also, the PNP will invite representatives from the Commission on Human Rights to join each of the sub-security task group to check on the actions of police and demonstrators.
Yung magiging unbiased defenders namin, just in case we'll be criticized or merong mga sasabihin itong ibang grupo or with malicious intention against us, at least nando yung Commission on Rights na nakita, Commission sa CHR na makita niya na what really happened.
On July 14, the PNP sets to have a dialogue with leaders of militant groups. Though the PNP has not received any threats prior to the event, the NCRPO assures that they will remain on full alert status.
When the DINICA briefed us yesterday, wala siyang sinabi ng mga threat na manggugulo, but just the same, hindi tayo pwede magkumpiyansa. Just like on previous SONAs and other major events, lagi nakahanda tayo doon.
The NCRPO meanwhile reminds foreign nationals that they are strictly prohibited to join any protest actions. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Police have arrested the main suspect in the assassination of General Thio Mayor Ferdinand Bote in Camarines Sur. Authorities in Cavite, meanwhile, are positive they have found the getaway vehicle used by the killers of 13 Martires Vice Mayor Alex Lubigan. Charlie Barredo tells us why.
Authorities nabbed the primary suspect in the killing of General Thio Nueva Ecija Mayor Ferdinand Bote this morning. PNP Region 5 Director Police Superintendent Arnel Escobar confirms that the suspect, identified as Florencio Suarez, was arrested at a checkpoint in Andayan National Highway in Barangay Cabasag del Gallego in Camarines Sur. Suarez was with a companion named Robert Gumakay when he was arrested on board a beige Toyota Avanza with vehicle plate number PGW134. Authorities also recovered a caliber .45 pistol from Suarez, who is now under the custody of Del Gallego Municipal Police. The PNP is still searching for up to 5 suspects in the killing of Mayor Bote. Meanwhile, Cavite Police Director Police Superintendent William Segun confirms that they have recovered the alleged gateway vehicle of the suspects in the separate murder case of 13 Martires, Vice Mayor Alexander Lubigan. Segun says the black Toyota Hilux was recovered at 6:55 this morning at Mabakao Pantihan Bridge in Barangay Tulay B, Maragondon, Cavite.
Mga 99% sure na tayo na ito ay yung ginamit ng mga suspects dahil based doon sa mga CCTV footages natin nakikita, yung description doon sa CCTV ay nagmamatch at kahawig dito sa nakuha nating sasakyan.
The vehicle was brought to the Maragondon Cavite Police Station and is now being processed by the scene of the crime operatives. Charlie Barredo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government, in cooperation with UNTV, will impose a standard for all rescuers in the country after witnessing the station's third rescue summit held at the Quezon City Memorial Circle today. Monoxon tells us why.
Participating rescue groups from different regions display their skills and speed in responding to various calamity and accident scenarios presented in the third UNTV Rescue Summit. The event held at the Quezon City Memorial Circle today was attended by Philippine National Police Chief, Police Director General Oscar Albayalde, and Interior and Local Government Undersecretary Nestor Quinsay. This year's Rescue Summit features the first rescue competition, which aims to enhance the rescuers' ability in saving lives amid precarious situations. But compared to yesterday's preliminaries, the obstacles presented in the proper competition are far more difficult, as these are specially designed to present a major earthquake scenario.
Time, para siyang actual na scenario. Kumbaga may talagang pisikalan po. Kung kailangan lumusong sa tubig, lulusong, mababasa tayo. May mga nakaharang sa daanan natin, kailangan natin talagang linisin. Kaya talagang physical, talagang ubos po yung lakas.
The UNTV also showcased in the Rescue Summit its array of drones, diving team, and new rescue equipment, as well as seminars on basic first aid, which was attended by the public.
Para po may matutunan na mga tuturo po dun sa seminar.
Malaking bagay kasi una libre, tsaka may matutunan ka, kaya pinunta ko na.
Meanwhile, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council admits that Metro Manila is not yet prepared for a major disaster like a strong earthquake.
We can never be prepared enough. Hindi tayo pwedeng tumigil sa paghahanda. So kailangan yung improvement ng ating mga system at saka pag-scale up ng ating preparedness actions, ng mga capability.
With this, the DILG is preparing to impose a standard program for all rescue groups in the country in cooperation with the UNTV.
Kasi meron tayong Rescue Academy. So i-enhance natin yan in such a way na talagang yung ating pag-graduate dito o bibigyan ng certificate talagang nasa level of standard na kanilang pwedeng i-certify. Yes, kikilalan din.
DILG also applauds UNTV's efforts to inform and prepare the public for the possibility of a major earthquake.
Information advocacy, kailan po malaman po ng ating mga every citizenry po natin sa bansa ay dapat malaman kung ano epekto po na mangyayari in case po may malaking kalamidad na mangyayari.
UNTV is the only Philippine media network that integrated rescue effort in its news operations to promote the advocacy of helping and saving the victims first before reporting the news. This is spearheaded by Mr. Public Service Kuya Daniel Razon, who also pioneered many public service efforts and innovations in the broadcast industry. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Asia's Phoenix Morissette is excited to meet her fans in Cebu and Dubai. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
Wishers gathered at Eton Centuries in Quezon City for the Wish Bus comeback of Asia's Phoenix Morissette. Here, she sang her latest offering, Panaginip. Morissette also promoted the upcoming Cebu and Dubai legs of her Made concert after her very successful solo concert at the Big Dome.
How was it?
Actually, I still have a high from all of that. Syempre, it's so hard to wake up from that dream. Talaga it's a dream and a wish come true to have had that happen. And of course, with Wish, parang a lot of doors have really opened for me. So I'm just really, really grateful and very excited for the next legs of Made.
The young diva says she is happy with her career and thanks Wish 1075 for being a part of it.
Ever since naman po, I've always been grateful to be able to just step on the Wish 1075 bus. And I can really proudly say na dahil po sa Wish ay mas nakilala siguro ako ng international audiences.
Made in Cebu will be held on July 14 at the Waterfront Hotel in Lahug, while her Dubai concert will happen at the World Trade Center Zabil Hall 2 on August 17. Tickets for her solo concert in Dubai are also available now at platinumlist.net. Leslie Longmoan, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. Grab Philippines is preparing to make an appeal on the order of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board for them to pay 10 million pesos in fines over its 2 peso per minute fare charge. Grab Philippines head Brian Koo insisted in a statement that their fare charge is legal, citing Department of Transportation Order 2015-11, allowing transport network companies to change fares on their own. However, the LTFRB clarifies that the department order only allows TNCs to have prearranged fare when authorized by the board. Grab is also ordered to reimburse its riders by way of rebates on their future rides that can be availed of within 20 days. The LTFRB says the order will take effect if Grab fails to file an appeal in the next 15 days.
Hindi po siya nakalagay na immediately executory. So there's a 15-day period after which it will become final pag walang gagawin yung Grab, whether to appeal or to file a motion for reconsideration.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez floats anew the idea of postponing the 2019 midterm elections. In an interview with the media, the House leader says deferring the upcoming polls will give more time for lawmakers to tackle the proposed constitutional amendment. The statement comes after a consultative committee tasked by President Rodrigo Duterte to review the 1987 Constitution submits a copy of the draft federal charter to the House of Representatives. Alvarez adds the lower house will have a tight schedule in the coming weeks because they will have to deliberate on the 2019 proposed national budget along with the proposed shift to federalism. He also notes that the congressmen will be busy campaigning for the midterm elections once they file their certificates of candidacy or COCs in October.
Paano tayo magkakurum dito? Ano mangyayari? Siyempre magkakampanya na yung mga congressmen. E-election yan eh. Kung gugustuhin talaga na matapos natin ito. Kasi kailangan mo ng focus dyan eh.
Senator Francis Pangilinan, however, disagrees with Speaker Alvarez, insisting that the people's right to suffrage is sacred and should not be compromised. In other news, the Bicameral Conference Committee will now adopt the House's version of the Bangsamoro Basic Law on the territory provision after meeting with President Rodrigo Duterte in Malacanang this afternoon. The Bicam consulted the President upon encountering a possible deadlock in the passage of the measure while deliberating on the remaining contentious BBL provisions earlier. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque says the chief executive was able to convince the two houses of Congress to agree, allowing the 6 municipalities of Lanao del Norte and 39 barangays of North Cotabato to vote to join the BBL territory in a referendum to be conducted on the mother territory of the areas involved. Malacanang is confident that the BBL will be passed and signed into law before July 23. The primary suspect in the killing of General Thio, Mayor Ferdinand Bote, has been arrested this morning. The suspect, identified as Florencio Suarez, was nabbed at a checkpoint along Del Gallego in Camarines Sur. Authorities also recovered a .45 caliber pistol from Suarez, who is now under the custody of Del Gallego Municipal Police. The PNP is still searching for up to 5 suspects in the killing of Mayor Bote. Meanwhile, the Cavite Police also recovered the alleged getaway vehicle in the separate murder case of 13 Martires Vice Mayor Alexander Lubigan. The abandoned black Toyota Hilux was found at the Mabacao-Pantihan Bridge in Maragondon, Cavite.
99% sure na tayo na ito ay yung ginamit ng mga suspects dahil based doon sa mga CCTV footages natin nakikita, yung description doon sa CCTV ay nagmamatch at kahawig dito sa nakuha nating sasakyan.
The legal team of Vice President Leni Robredo is urging the Presidential Electoral Tribunal to give the Commission on Elections only 5 days to comment on the ballot shading threshold issue amid the continuing vice presidential vote recount. Robredo's camp explains this is to avoid any further delays in the resolution of its motion for reconsideration before the PET on the matter. The Vice President initially appealed to use a 25% ballot shading threshold, arguing that this was set by the COMELEC in the 2016 polls. This came after Solicitor General Jose Calida supported former Senator Bongbong Marcos' stand to use the 50% threshold as the standard in the electoral case. The COMELEC has so far remained silent on the issue. The Philippine National Police will deploy a total of 6,000 personnel to ensure security and order during President Rodrigo Duterte's third State of the Nation address on July 23. The PNP is also considering whether or not to set a protest line in Commonwealth Avenue or in Batasan Road in view of the possible repeat of last year's event when the president went out of Batasan complex to personally address the protesters. No container vans and barbed wires will be set up to block the protesters, but a sub-security task group will be deployed to monitor the Batasan area. Policemen are also ordered to exercise maximum tolerance, and those assigned to the protest areas will also be prohibited from bringing service firearms. And though they have not received any threats prior to the event, the PNP assures that they will remain on full alert status.
Wala siyang sinabi ng mga threat na manggugulo, but just the same, hindi tayo pwede magkumpiyansa. Just like on previous SONAs and other major events, lagi nakahanda tayo doon.
And for the news abroad, here's Noel Poliarco live from Toronto, Canada. Noel, good evening.
Thank you, William, and good evening. The 12 boys and their coach who were trapped in a Thai cave have successfully escaped, but their challenges are not yet over. Let's find out why from Kat Dumaraos.
The 12 soccer teammates who were trapped in a flooded Thai cave for more than 2 weeks are finally out and are now being closely monitored in hospital. According to health authorities, the first 8 boys to be rescued on Sunday and Monday are still in hospital but are said to be in good mental and physical health. They have now been joined by the 4 boys and the 25-year-old coach who were rescued yesterday. X-rays and blood tests have been ordered and they will remain under observation. Experts say drinking contaminated water in the cave or being exposed to bird or bat droppings could lead to dangerous infections.
When most of the boys were admitted in the beginning, they had high white blood cell count because of infections, so we gave them antibiotics.
The boys lost an average of 2 kilograms in weight during their 17-day ordeal and are keen to eat. Doctors are also scaling back preventive medication while continuing to treat those with lung infections. It could be at least 7 days before they can be released from hospital. Meanwhile, Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha expresses gratitude to people in Thailand and from around the world after the final rescues were completed.
On behalf of Thai government, I would like to reiterate my sincerest gratitude for the determination and sacrifice of all involved in the mission. Every organization, civilian, volunteer and media, both Thai and foreign, who gave support in terms of expertise, manpower, machine and all of the equipment. We also received moral support and friendship from friendly countries worldwide that led to the mission being well achieved.
More than 150 people inside the cave, Thais, Australians, Americans, Chinese and more, helped pass the boys who were on stretchers, hand by hand out of the cave once they had reached Chamber 3. The drama in Thailand has even resonated as far as Russia, where soccer's World Cup is reaching its final stages. Players from France and England welcomed news of the rescue and sent their best wishes to the wild boars on Twitter. One illustration by Bangkok-based artist Cicidea shows the escape through fictional animals, including little boars to represent the young team, a Red Cross horse representing medics and nurses, frogs representing divers, and seals, including one with a halo as an angel gone to heaven, for the SEAL team helping. Meanwhile, Hollywood producers have arrived in Thailand and are already plotting a movie about the young boys and their soccer coach trapped in the cave before they are all out. Kat Numraos, UNTV News and Rescue, Thailand.
The European Council tells U.S. President Donald Trump to appreciate his allies instead of criticizing them ahead of a summit between Trump and NATO leaders in Brussels. Here's why from Dennis Damasco.
President Donald Trump is set to meet NATO leaders for potentially fractious talks at a summit in Brussels on Wednesday. Ahead of his visit, Trump hit out at the European Union on trade and at his NATO allies for failing to spend enough on defense. He was met with a sharp rebuke from European Council President Donald Tusk, who accused the president of criticizing Europe almost daily.
Dear America, appreciate your allies. After all, you don't have that many. And dear Europe, spend more on your defense, because everyone respects an ally that is well prepared and equipped.
President Trump predicted that the NATO meeting could be harder than his summit with the Russian leader Vladimir Putin in Finland next Monday. Trump has claimed the US is being taken advantage of by other members of the NATO alliance, which was set up in 1949 to counter the Soviet Union. His main objection is that a number of member states have not increased their defense budgets to meet a 2014 goal.
Well, we do have a lot of allies, but we cannot be taken advantage of. We're being taken advantage of by the European Union. We lost $151 billion last year on trade, and on top of that, we spend at least 70% for NATO, and frankly, it helps them a lot more than it helps us. So we'll see what happens.
Featuring high on the EU-NATO declaration are military mobility, counterterrorism, strengthening resilience to chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear-related risks, as well as promoting the women, peace, and security agenda. The declaration also hinted that European members of NATO will increase their spending on defense. The declaration, the second of its kind after a 2-year hiatus, was inked by NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, Tusk, and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker in Brussels on the eve of the NATO summit. The summit, slated for July 11 to 12, has been in the shadow of Trump's long simmering discontent over the military bloc's burden sharing. Dennis Damasco, UNTV, News and Rescue.
Firefighters evacuated on Tuesday the landmark Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, California, while rangers in Australia have caught the so-called monster crocodile they had been hunting for almost a decade. Beverly Saison tells us why.
In America, the landmark Griffith Observatory was evacuated on Tuesday due to a brush fire near the facility in a corner of the surrounding park. The blaze quickly charred at least 2 acres of drought-parched chaparral and grass in the southeastern section of Griffith Park at the edge of the observatory grounds. According to City Fire Department, the flames pose no immediate threat to the historic observatory building situated on the southern slope of Mount Hollywood or to any nearby homes. No injuries were reported from the fire. In United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth and senior royals watched almost 100 aircraft from World War II Spitfires to the newest stealth fighter jet fly over Buckingham Palace on Tuesday in a celebration to mark the 100th anniversary of Britain's Royal Air Force. Thousands of people lined the palace approach in central London to watch a ceremony hosted by the Queen and culminating in the historic flypast of bombers, old and new, along with spy planes, helicopters, and transporters. Heir to the throne, Prince Charles and his wife Camilla, his son Prince William and wife Kate, and Prince Harry and his wife Meghan all joined the Queen on the palace balcony for the display. And in Australia, authorities in Australia have caught a saltwater crocodile measuring almost 16.4 feet, one of the biggest on record, to stop it from reaching a populated area. Rangers caught the male crocodile downstream from the town of Katherine on Monday after sedating it. They had been hunting it since they first spotted it in 2010. Weighing up to 600 kilograms, the 60-year-old crocodile is the biggest ever removed from the Katherine River in the remote Northern Territory. It was moved to live out its days at a crocodile farm. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Noel Poliarco, live from Toronto, Canada. And those are the reasons behind the news, July 11, 2018. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, and Angelo Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.